Ahi hahi maeri ai, rangatira mā, tēnā koutou katoa, no mai haere mai. Before we start, as we start our live streaming today, I'm just going to read out the health and safety announcements as recommended for level 2. Please note that the following protocol are in place for this council meeting that abide by alert level 2 restrictions and are compliant with the government issued guidelines. A maximum number of people allowed in the chamber is 30. This allows for physical distancing. A Zoom option has been made available for those who cannot attend the meeting due to being vulnerable or at risk. The seating arrangements in place ensure the elected members are seated 2 metres apart. Staff and public also need to be seated 2 metres apart. Members of the public, staff and elected members will wear mask covering or can be 2 metres separated. So you can take your mask off during the council meeting. Certain councils have exemption from wearing a mask. Disposable masks have been made available for the public to use. Elected members and staff, you may remove your mask to speak during the meeting or when seated in your designated seat 2 metres apart. Hand sanitizer is available for everybody's use. Kia ora koutou katoa, good afternoon everyone. Welcome to our council meeting today. Lovely to see your faces and lovely to be back in the chamber at level 2. Can I start our meeting today with asking Councillor Baden to start us with a karakia. Kia ora.
Kia ora,
Baden.
kia ora tātou.
E tū.
E pātō mātou matunu te rangi a tēnei mātou te kaunihira o here taunga. E koropiko nei ki bui tōroro tēnei ahi te tuku whakawheta te kia koe mo tēnei wā, kua hoki anō mātou ki tēnei o ngā whare, ki te hui mō ngā take kaunihira. Nō reira e pā, ia mai tō wairua tapu, hei manaki, hei tiaki a mātou tēnei wā o tira, e rao ngā whānau kei te noho mā wiwi tēnei wā. Hoeno, tēnei mātou mihi nei kia koe, whakatōkia mai tō wairua, hei arataki a mātou nei mahi, kia tutiki pai a mātou ngā mahi o te kaunihira, i tēnei rangi, tēnei tamātou inoi atu rā kia koe, i rungi te ngā tapu o Iukaraiti tamātou kai whakora. Āmene. Kia ora.
Well, welcome everyone, and as I said, it's lovely to see you all back in the chamber, and as we're able to undertake our work for our community today and look at seeking good direction from everyone. Thank you to the staff for the agenda that's in front of us and all the hard work that's gone into it. I have apologies from Councillor Keith, who has the Rangatahi Youth Court at the same time as our council meeting today and cannot attend. I move from the chair that his apology be accepted. It's seconded Councillor Watkins. All those in favour please say aye. Aye. Any against? That's carried. Any leave of absence? No leave of absence. Conflict of interest? I've already received a conflict of interest from Councillor Lawson today. And can I remind councillors, for both your protection and the protection of our community, that you consider conflicts of interest very, very carefully as you come to any item, that you may have even a perception or a reality of a conflict. So that's both how the public perceive and also how you're perceived. So I just remind you of conflicts of interest. Item 5, we move on to our Chief Executive's update. Welcome, Nigel. If you'd like to speak to your update, thank you.
Your Worship, and through you, good afternoon, councillors. Lovely to see you all again back in the chamber. I'll take my report as read, other than to say, obviously, it's been another challenging period of time for the country and for our community, and I've been incredibly proud of the way that as an organisation, again, we've maintained essential services, supported our community, looked after one another, and continued to advance a huge amount of work in the meantime, a number of which are in the agenda items before you today. But happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you, Nigel. Any questions for the Chief Executive's report? Thank you. Happy to move the report be accepted. Seconded Councillor Kerr. No further questions or comments? All those in favour? Oh, Councillor Lawson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to make a comment really, and my observation over the lockdown period was that the collaboration and communication was absolutely excellent, and I just want to congratulate the staff at what they managed, and along with it, supporting our community, also carried on with business as usual. Fantastic.
Thank you. Well said, Councillor Lawson. Yes, that's a good idea, Councillor Kerr. Excellent, thank you. Councillor Sholem.
Before we move on to the next item, Your Worship, very happy to move the minutes from the last meeting.
So they haven't been circulated, Councillor Sholem.
I thought they were the...
No, they haven't been circulated. So we're going to bring them.
I must have looked at the wrong ones on the hub.
Yes, so we're going to bring them back at the next council meeting. I think that's why we didn't think. But thank you for bringing that to our attention. Now we'd like to move on to Louise's Democratic and Governance Services of 2021 meeting schedule changes. Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Second, and Councillor Dixon. You've got a couple of changes. Okay, so the meeting schedule changes. Amended Here Tonga Takotono Standing Committee rescheduled from the 25th of August to the 22nd of September at 10 a.m. District Planning and Bylaw Subcommittee rescheduled from the 25th of August to the 22nd of September at 1 p.m. District Development Subcommittee new meeting Tuesday the 12th of October at 10 a.m. Mover and seconder happy with those changes? Thank you. Any questions or comments on those changes? Thank you. I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Moving to item 7. This is a petition received from petitioners about Tainui Reserve. And we have clear direction here. We've got some recommendations, please, the officers, that are different from your paper. If you'd like to put those up on the screen, thank you. Just while we're waiting for those to go up on the screen, just to give everyone a bit of an update, in terms of the preparation for the Reserve Management Plan for Tainui has been made available on our website 2 weeks ago. So all of the databases that took part in the surveys, everybody who's had the opportunity to be part of interviews, and over 350 surveys were completed and 180 interviews so far. So that's part of the process that has been occurring. Now the team are moving to stage 2 of the Reserve Management Plan process, and there will be a series of workshops with the community to identify the key themes for the Tainui Reserve and to be included in the draft Reserve Management Plan. So it's a big, long process, as we know. It's a very thorough process. There's 7 steps to it, and good to have that feedback of 350 submissions. So in terms of receiving today the report on the Tainui Reserve process, just move the ones in that you want. Okay, just Craig. Okay, so I'll read those out. That Council received the report titled Tainui Petition, dated the 9th of September 2021. That Council notes that the officers are examining immediate interim options to address the issues raised in the petition. If a feasible and safe option is identified, physical works will be completed at the earliest opportunity. Council notes that the appropriate process for implementing long-term physical remediation is the Reserve Management Plan process. The issues raised in the petition will be referred to the Tainui Reserve Management Planning process. Do I have any comments on that? Councillor Nixon? Okay. Councillor Nixon's moved. Councillor Redstone, second. Any comments? I think that's a really clear direction there, both through the long-term management plan process and the short-term process of identifying any safety issues. No further comments. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. And I trust that the staff will report back to the petitioners about that direction. Thank you very much. And that's the 20 petitioners. They'll receive feedback on that direction. Thank you. Yes, we'd like everybody to receive that feedback. That's great. Thank you. Moving on to item 8. Welcome to James. This is parking controls and some update. Welcome to our new parking transportation officer. Kia ora, James.
Thank you. Your Worship, Councillors, I'm taking that everyone's read my report. If there are any questions, I'm willing to take.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions here. Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Worship. Happy to move the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Councillor Sholem.
Happy to second, and also I'd just like to acknowledge that the drop-off pickup zone that's been developed over time is working really well and fantastic feedback from schools, so thank you to the team.
Awesome. Thank you, Councillor Sholem, for that feedback. Councillor Nixon.
Yeah, mine is a question.
Yes.
I just couldn't quite
Standing
distinguish.
orders. You might standing orders.
Oh, sorry. Distinguish between a drop-off zone and a 5-minute parking zone. What precisely is the difference?
Okay. Drop-off zone is basically, it gets rid of the congestion in the street because at certain schools they've probably outgrown the area. Parents are parking illegally. So what we do with the drop-off zone is it's quick pick-up and they're gone. So there's no parking for long periods of time. 5 minutes is quite a long period of time and cars are looking for parks. So it distinguishes and gets rid of that.
So do we have some method of administering this to make sure it works? I mean, how does that work?
Yes, we do. If it's approved, council removes the 2 P5 signs, installs drop-off zone signs with times. The school will then control the area. You can't have parking officers there all the time. It's worked from the school, Mora School,
yeah,
and Havelock. Parkville has asked it because they've seen the success of it, and it works, and it reduces the congestion in the area.
yeah.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Mr. Shaughnessy, did you want to add anything?
No, but just really welcome, James, and I think you'll be doing some more of these reports. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank
you. Councillor Ollie.
Yes, I have my children that I drop off and pick up all the time, and it does get quite congested at Boudica Primary School. I've noticed that it gets a bit crazy when the officers aren't there, so I want to acknowledge Jason Mamoa and the team. He's also known as Jason Mamoa, so I call him Jason. But yeah, want to acknowledge when your officers are there, everyone is very compliant and it's really smooth and it works efficiently. So thank you, bro.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a mover and a seconder. Yes, I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Item number 9. Welcome, Tony. Thank you, James. An application for a temporary alcohol ban. I'm not sure if you could just inform us, Tony, about this event, because there's been so many changes with trying to understand and how long we've been COVID level 2, and so thank you.
Last day or so, just to find out, what would happen. Is it likely to be cancelled? Because I was thinking in terms of the timing around this, but I understand that the event will go ahead in any circumstance, and obviously the numbers of people that they can let in will be determined by the COVID restrictions, because it's going to be a televised race anyway, so it's part of the racing calendar. And I had like preliminary low-level discussions regarding whether this event's going to continue to occur on the third Saturday of October. Traditionally, it's been the first, which is our bylaw is set around. And so the next step in that is I'll formally send an email to the Racing Centre, and they'll put it through their system to see if they can provide a bit of certainty about when the future ones will be held.
All right, thank you. So the recommendations, councillors, are pretty much that the event is going to be the third Saturday in October. If we're obviously, it doesn't matter which restriction level we're in. Councillor Nixon?
Thanks, this time I remember. Are these restrictions any different than we normally have for the racing centre?
No, we've got a ban in place at the moment, but it's always been
Could you just repeat?
the first Saturday in October, and it's traditionally been that first Saturday for the Spring Carnival, which is the big event. But with COVID, it's moved to the, I'm not sure what it was last year, it might have been the second or third, but this year it's the third.
I was thinking of the particular streets that were involved. Yeah. In other words, if it's the same, because I'll move it if it's all the same, because we've done it so many times.
It's exactly the same.
It is, I'll move it.
Thank you, Councillor Nixon. Have a seconder, Councillor Barber. Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Thank you. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Thank you. That's carried. And we look forward to seeing what happens with the Spring Carnival this year. Excellent. Thank you very much. Item number 10. Welcome to John Payne, the Animal Control. This is the annual report. Welcome, John.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's hard to believe this has come round again so quick. But it seems to be trending in the right direction, which is always a good sign. Take it that the report's read and answer any questions.
Thank you, John. Councillor Nixon, have you got your...
Oh, well, I was going to ask a question, I didn't realise I'd left it on. The prosecutions, I've lost that, but there are a number of prosecutions for dog attacks. What's the outcome of that? I mean, these are court prosecutions?
Yes, yeah.
So what do we spend and what do we get back from that?
Generally, it's quite an investment to take a prosecution. The results are normally quite favourable to the victim. So there's a lot of reparation often ordered, but the costs certainly outweigh any return that council gets.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Redstone.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the report, John. I'm just interested, as usual, in how many dogs were impounded in the year and how many of those had to be euthanised.
Yes, that's covered in the report.
I've missed it.
I think it's an increase in the claim rate this year. It was 69.8 last year, and it's 72.3 this year. But the interesting thing about that is we successfully home place everything that's suitable. So if we have to hold on to it longer to find it a home, then we do, which is a little bit of a cost to us. But we couldn't be any more successful than we are, otherwise we'd be starting to home place dogs that are not suitable to go out into the community.
Yeah, thank you. And I just wonder if the number's up or down on impounding.
Slightly down, 947 last year and only 877 this year, which again is a good sign.
Cool, thank you.
Any further questions? Anyone? Councillor Sears?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm happy to move the recommendation and
Thank
just
you.
to acknowledge the team, actually, John, having seen a little bit of what your dog control team is working with, I really want to acknowledge how important actually they are in our community, how quickly they respond and what a good job they do. And I think the figures, although, as you say, they're kind of up and down on different things, show that there's a lot of success going on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sears. So I have a mover, Councillor Sears, seconded Councillor Lawson. Any further questions or comments, councillors? Thank you for your report, Mr. Payne. I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? Thank you. Good to see the trends tracking down. Excellent. Thank you for your great work. On to item number 11, and this is the closure of access way between Frederick Street West and Manuka Street. Welcome, Tian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Afternoon, councillors. Happy to take the report as read and to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Sholem.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question around, I believe it's 6.4, which is the disposal of the land, should we choose to disestablish this alleyway. How do we ensure that if we do decide for it to not continue and we dispose of that land to the neighbours, that the alleyway does actually physically disappear? Because moving fences and whatnot is an expensive undertaking. I'm just interested to understand the mechanics around that.
Yes, so that is I guess that is part of the risk of doing this as well. Once we've handed it over to the private owner, then it is up to them to close it. We currently have a similar alleyway in Flaxmere, which we have sold the land, but they're actually planning to have a community barbecue next month just to find out what the best option for that piece of land is. So it is then private land and up to the owner to close it as they see fit.
I ask a follow-up, Your Worship? So through you, is there anything that council has done in the past in similar situations, or that we could do in this case, to at least physically block off access to that walkway, even if the land remains unclaimed? Because I just acknowledge that the main reason why we're looking at disposing of it is it's a hotbed for undesirable activity, and I'd hate for that to continue to occur even after we've officially closed it and disposed of it.
Yeah, I think the risk of doing that is that it then becomes a dumping ground, because while it may be fenced off, there's just a bare patch of land there. The point about these is that it is the neighbours who are asking for it to be closed. So if they're the ones that are wanting to deal with the issue, then it is in their best interest to see that it is closed. But we can obviously help with that and provide appropriate fencing if that is required.
So one more question.
It's through Madam Chair. If we do reach a situation where council is selling the land, we may be able to explore options as part of their conditions of sale. Some authorities actually, they adjust the price of the sale to cover the fencing, move it, so that there's no uncertainty. The only issue, and I think you've hinted at it, is getting both sides of the fence to agree. So they both have to get offered it, and the ideal situation is a split 50-50. But one alternative method could be just to say, as an example, it's worth $1,000, $2,000 or whatever. The movement of the fence comes out of that cost, so that our crew, paying for that part of it. But that means it's effectively dealt with. So that's a possible suggestion.
Yeah. And I'll just add that part of this process is we already have agreements from the adjacent landowners to take over ownership of the land in principle. So while that is not legally binding as of yet, then they are definitely keen to do so.
If I may. Thank you. I have two more questions, if that's all right, Your Worship. So following on from that information, are there any changes that are required to the recommendations to take into account that option that you've just stated there? Because what I would loathe to see us do is say that we've closed the alleyway, negotiate with the neighbours and say, yes, the land is now yours, and then it just to keep sitting there. If there's a way of us ensuring that condition of sale is immediate change of some sort, then I'm very supportive of this. Otherwise, my question is, what can council do if we do officially dispose of the land, but the alleyway actually physically remains?
Just through you, Madam Chair, what I'd suggest is that we make that a best endeavours, because Ian you can't guarantee it because of the neighbours. So maybe if we offered up that the best endeavours is to get the fence moved as part of the property transaction, and we just put an additional recommendation in. Ian, are you comfortable with that?
So We'll add an extra recommendation to that effect for you to have a look at, Councillor Sholham.
Thank you. And my
Okay.
final question, if that's
Yes.
all right, through you, Worship, is again, coming back to, we're best endeavours here in crafting and whatnot that we've just talked about. If we dispose of the land and the alleyway remains, it's not technically council land anymore, but do we have any recourse to help make sure that doesn't continue to be an area of antisocial behaviour if it's not council land?
I think, to be fair, I think it's the people moving through the area that it's, it's used for a lot of activities apparently. I think you've just got to rely on the fact that the reason the neighbours want it removed is they want those activities to cease there. But that's not to say you get a neighbour who's as bad as the people who occupied the laneway, or the linkway. So I don't think there's any guarantees that you can, but I think it will stop most of the activities because they won't be able to transit through the walkway.
Okay. Pending the amended recommendations, I'm happy to look at moving at those when they're completed.
Thank you, Councillor Sholham. Councillor Dixon.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Councillor Sholham asked most of my questions, but alleyways were designed some 50 years ago when children used to walk to school. Now that doesn't tend to happen, so I'm more than happy to second the recommendations.
Okay. Hopefully some children still walk to school. Very few.
I'm trying to encourage
more. We're going to cycle, aren't they? Yeah. Okay, cool. I think it would be really helpful, just picking up some of the concerns of councillors today, that we've got a number of these that's been outlined across the district. I know that some residents in Bledisloe and there's some others, because this was urban design of the past, as Councillor Dixon's outlined. I think it would be really helpful if we had that agreement from the parties about the remediation, and that is, forms part of how we're going to manage going forward, because there's one thing for us to say, yes, we need to close this space that isn't suitable to the community anymore, but actually how we're going to make sure that happens. And I think that's probably the negotiation in the area that we could help council.
So that is definitely part of the existing process.
It is.
And that we already, in this case, we already have that agreement in principle that at least two neighbours will take over ownership of the land.
In terms of remediation.
Potentially haven't detailed the exact fencing at this stage. I haven't been personally involved in those negotiations.
Okay.
But there's definitely that desire from parties to take over ownership of the land.
Yes. But I guess it's leaving the space in a better place than what it has been. And that is a role because, we've created this in our urban design in the past for a council.
Are you, Madam Chair, directing us just when we come with these, have those agreements, discussions with the owners before we come?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And whether you need to formalise that, Councillor Sholham, or not, Councillor Dixon, but I think that is, the key here, because this isn't going to be the last. We've got these spaces all across the district. They've come to us before.
And the kind of modern style is about a 4 to 5 metre wide one, where you can't hide anywhere and they're open, you see them through a lot of modern subdivisions. And some are even larger now.
I think larger is, yes, much safer. Okay, thank you. Councillor Nixon.
Thank you. I did have a call from somebody who was a little concerned about this closure, so I decided to go down this morning and have my own inspection. And it looked to me as though we hadn't been down there in about 50 years since it was built, as Councillor Dixon pointed out. I mean, it's full of rubbish, the odd broken bottle, lots of plastic things, bits of paper. It was pretty disgusting. On top of that, all the trees from the neighbouring properties completely cover over the top, which means it's a very hidden area. I can imagine why undesirable activity goes on there, because it's pretty protected. You feel quite safe doing your little trades or whatever they do down there. So I just wondered, do we ever do any maintenance? Do we ever go down there and actually clean it up? That'd be my first question.
Liam?
Yes, it is part of our regular maintenance process, and obviously whenever we get complaints, we do go down and do our best to clean it up and deal with vegetation, just as we do on footpaths and such.
Thank you.
Okay. The second one is, now it's I've lost it, but in there, I think it said 250 metres extra distance for people, but that would only apply to the people that live right at the far end of Manuka Street. Most of the rest of the people that use it, do we know where they're coming from? You had some numbers in here for people. I just wondered, did we stop them and say, how far have you come? Because for a lot of them, it might not be that far.
So no, we didn't gather that information. I believe most of the people that were using it were young kids going to the nearby school, and I imagine they're mostly residents of Manuka Street.
Yeah, I would guess that too. I don't know if Councillor Sholem asked this question, but is there a cost to us of actually doing this?
Yes, there is obviously legal costs, and obviously if we provide any fencing or other facilities, then that will be part of the cost, but it's completely within our existing budgets.
But we don't know the cost, roughly?
A few $1,000s is generally what we end up with, and obviously if we charge market rates for the land, then there will be some remuneration as well.
So we will get a financial return. Are the adjacent property owners willing to pay?
Yes, that has been again part of the agreements in principle, but obviously the value of the land hasn't been had a valuation done yet, so that will be something to be done in the future.
And the last question I've got is, in our consultation process, I noticed it didn't include, for instance, signage advising people that we might be going to close it and telling them, because these are children, they don't necessarily read our publications in the local paper. I just wondered, can we do something like that so that people know we are thinking of closing it? Because I think this will backfire on us if we get it wrong.
Yes, we will include signage on the alleyway itself, as well as we're doing letter drops to the neighbourhood, including the school as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Sears.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to really say thank you to staff. I know that this has been driven by for the last 18 months by the residents who I've had a bit of contact with, who are experiencing really unpleasant and difficult circumstances behind their homes. And just to say thank you personally to you, and as soon as you actually picked up this, it's only been, I think, about 6 weeks since we first had the conversation for you to bring this paper to start it. So on behalf of the residents, which I think is really important when residents are driving this sort of change, it's not something that council's imposing, to say thank you for getting it to this point. And I think the engagement with the flyer drop to everybody to feedback is really appropriate, and happy to move if someone hasn't already. With the amendments, I'm happy with the amendments.
I have got a mover and a seconder at this stage. Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Sears. Councillor Travis.
As Mayor Hazelhurst mentioned earlier, the provision of these walkways was obviously a feature of town planning 50 or 60 years ago. And we have seen that the neighbours in that area have suffered considerable distress having these antisocial activities happening in their neighbourhood. I'm aware that there are many such alleyways. Could we, or do we, have a system for proactively identifying these areas before they become a source of stress or distress to the neighbourhood?
And do we have a process at the moment to identify which ones could be an issue?
So that is a task for me to do. At the moment I am reacting. I have 4 others on the books that I'm currently looking at, or are partially through this process. And it is a detailed process with multiple steps, obviously multiple parties involved as well. And the legal framework is very much geared up to keeping them open. So that is the current with the Land Transport Act. So that is the process we're dealing with. But I am on the lookout and trying to build up a database of exactly how many we do have and the condition of them.
Great, thank you very much. It's good to know. Councillor Barber.
Kia ora tātou. I just kind of follow on from where Simon was coming from. The only comments that I've seen on the paper are from the neighbours that bound the alleyway. have there been any efforts to go out to wider, the whānau that are living down on Cody and Manuka? And has this been discussed as part of a wider community plan, Mahora community plan or something like that? Because, if you're the neighbour, you're going to have issues because you're right on the doorstep. But 23 people use it in the morning and 16 use it in the afternoon. It's not like it isn't being used, and the kids are going through to go through to Mahora school. Is the strategy for this council to close every kind of alleyway throughout Hastings? Is that? So I'm not talking about process, and I'm talking about what's the intention going forward, because there's hundreds of alleyways in Hastings, and I know that neighbourhood, and it is a rougher neighbourhood. We've got high deprivation partner living down there in Manuka and Cody, but I'm just kind of weighing up both sides of the argument here, and just asking a little bit about the process for the wider community.
Yeah, so no, we don't have a standard policy on whether to keep these open or closed. What I would say is, before I became involved, there was extensive work some work with the local community, including the local school, and that's where the fences got painted. You'll see the murals along there as well. So there have been efforts and work to make it a more pleasant environment. Unfortunately, that hasn't dealt with the neighbours' issues, so they're still pushing for it to be closed. This is the opportunity through the legal process for that community to give that feedback and say, no, we want to keep it open. And I would expect that if we do get those complaints, then it will probably remain open.
Thank you. Do we have the police input into any of these areas and alleyways?
Yes, I have spoken to police, not about this particular alleyway. There was a couple others. Oh no, yes, about this one, due to the window breakage. So they're definitely aware of it. But again, there's limited amount that they can do as well.
Councillor Ollie?
Through you, Chair, is it okay for me to ask Ainan a question relating to another alleyway in Flaxmere? Or are we just focused on the one in Hastings? Okay.
I think you did mention that you've already done this once before in Flaxmere.
I just wanted to ask a question about the alleyway next to Flaxmere College. Just a question. Well, I can ask him in person.
Yeah, I think it's offline that we'll have that conversation. That would be great, and because I know that there are another couple that the community have brought to us at the moment, Councillor Ollie. So we're going to have to look at this and just work out, a strategy and a way forward, because there are a number of communities that are putting up with these old alleyways. Councillor Redstone.
Thank you. Ian, I just wondered, is there an option to close it at night only? Because obviously if the school children are using it, would there be an option to fence it off or gate it off somehow for night time? Because I'm guessing that that's when all the undesirable behaviour happens, not during the day.
So I'm not sure of that one actually. I believe it would be a very different process than this one. So I haven't, not sure of what the process to do that would be. And then obviously there would be an ongoing cost to open and close it. Plus it's not likely to discourage the dumping or stopping people jumping over the gate.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Given the report, the call from the community, the limited use of the walkway at the moment, and the intentions to go out essentially to with consultation around this, I think there will be ample opportunity for the community to voice their objection if there are any. So I'm very happy to move or second the recommendations wherever we're up to. Thank you.
Councillor Redstone, you finished? Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'm sort of in Baden's camp really on this one as well, and just understanding that it is used by school children, and would want to ensure that, if there's 23 in the morning, 16 in the afternoon, that they're the ones that have actually been spoken to or intend to be spoken to.
So could I just clarify the process as I understand it, and I think Councillor Sholem just outlined, is if the council were of the view and made a decision to potentially adopt this as a road stoppage, it then triggers a process where for a minimum of 40 days, we actually need to go out and talk to all the residents, the businesses, the schools, the wider community, and give them the opportunity to have a say. And if there are any objections from that process, that will come back to council before a final decision is made. Is that the process?
That's correct, yes.
Right.
So I haven't, so you will bring a paper back to council following your consultation process? Yes. Thank you. Okay, so that would make sure that we get the school children's views. Yeah, school's views. Yep, okay. So Councillor Sholem, Councillor Dixon, you comfortable with those recommendations and the process?
I am.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments? Okay, so I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Good luck with the consultation to the wider community, and we look forward to the paper. Item number 12. This is the plan change, providing for marae in rural plains and production zone, recommendations and process. Welcome to James. Oh, Rowan, welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Rowan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would just ask through you, Your Worship, that the report be taken as read, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Worship. This is a great move. It really was a mistake that I don't think ever should have been taken out of the district plan those years ago. Happy to move.
Great, thank you. Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Worship. Happy to second.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any questions? I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Well, that was too easy, Rowan, wasn't it?
Too easy. Thank you.
Yeah. Excellent. Good luck. Now we're on to item 13, and this is our Flaxmere Land Developments update. And Councillor Keith was very sad he couldn't be here because he's in Rangatahi Youth Court this afternoon, but very excited about the next stage in the Flaxmere Land Development, he just wanted me to say. So welcome to you, Dave. And did you have anything to add? Oh,
I was going to make some opening comments. I mean, look, this is really a pretty comprehensive update around where we're at with development in Flaxmere, not just land development, but obviously the amenity development with the skate park and Hoopson Park, and I think really reflects that. It really is the council's focus on its Flaxmere's time. It's just fantastic to see the amount of development that's going on out there. But I'm sure Dave's happy to add or answer any questions. But obviously we're getting to the point where we're pretty close now around physical works starting on the Flaxmere town centre and 244 Flaxmere Ave that has resource consent, and we're currently in the market for the civil works with a view to start before Christmas. And not surprisingly, the community's been very engaged with the proposed skate park and Hoopson Park, and some fantastic work that's being led by Rachel Stewart with our skate park designer, with the schools through Morris, and the school kids and the community very engaged in the design of the skate park. And obviously we're signalling in the paper that that will be back in front of council in the next month at the conclusion of that design process. But I just think really exciting to see a lot of things starting to advance out in Paharakiki.
Yep, no, just nothing else really to add. It's just this one's basically just giving the council the, I guess, the a tick off to proceed to the next stage, which is the physical construction works of those 3 development areas, and a couple of delegations to the Chief Executive to keep us in the time frame that we've got by the Crown funding agreement. So there's obviously future build stuff to come when we come to sell off the land through that EOI process. So that's the one that will be coming back to council to determine how we're going to sell the land, who we're going to build it with, that sort of carry on the particular sites. So we're just currently doing an evaluation of those at the present time, and that will come through to you in due course. So this one's essentially just a tick off to proceed with the physical works to create the roads and the subdivision of the blocks. And yeah, so we're in the market now for the town centre works, and those tenders close at the end of the month. 244 Flaxmere Avenue will probably just follow on from that, and then both contracts will be essentially signed through in October, with the hope to have the contractors on the ground through into November sometime. Yeah, COVID pending, I guess. That would be the only setback, I'd imagine, but that's the plan at this stage. Happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Dave. So are you envisaging any challenges with some of the expressions of interest that you've had that won't be able to continue because of the COVID challenges in construction?
We're probably not quite up to that stage yet. We've got about 10 people that have submitted, so we're just sort of evaluating what their capabilities are, I guess, and whether that's they'll be able to come and do what we want them to do, I guess. Yeah, so it's probably not quite there at this stage yet, but I think from talking to the physical works contractors, there's quite a sort of long delay in lead times for certain items. So there could be cost pressures and time stuff down the track, but obviously we'll get started and we'll see how we go.
Great, thank you. Councillor Ollie?
Yes, exciting times for Flaxmere, so I'd like to thank Dave and the team for your amazing work, and I'd like to move the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Ollie. Councillor Kerr, I have a seconder.
Yeah, I'm happy to second your
Thank
worship.
you.
And I just would love to highlight recommendation E, when it talks about deliver residential and commercial development outcomes that improve the social, cultural, economic, environmental wellbeing of Flaxmere, creating an intergenerational legacy to be proud of, implementing where appropriate, and goes on to talk about quality urban design, quality civil construction, provision of healthy and affordable homes, and environmental sustainability. Because if that's what we end up with, I'm sure we will all be incredibly proud of this piece of work. So absolutely thrilled to be able to second it. Thank you, Dave, and your team.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Councillor Wilson, are you right? Any further comments or questions? Councillor Barber.
Yeah, kia ora. Awesome to see the plans for Flaxmere. Just the skate park's going to be, top notch. Got a top designer there. Just in terms of the skating interest in Flaxmere, I know that basketball, big interest in Flaxmere. Skateboarding, I don't know. Maybe a part-time for Councillor Ollie, but yeah. We got our tamariki all into skating. I mean, I love skating. My kids love skating, but Flaxmere, I've never seen anyone in their skate park. But
Yeah. Thanks, Baden, for your question. We've got a small committee of students from all different schools, and they've expressed their interest and desire to build and create this skate park for Flaxmere, or everyone really, but yeah, they're the ones that are actually driving it. So it's based around skateboarders and scooterers. That's the term. Scooterers. Yeah.
I'd have to say that I've been embarrassed with that skate bowl in Flaxmere for all my time on council, and I'm excited that there is going to be a purpose-built, state-of-the-art place for tamariki rangatahi to enjoy in the future, and that is going to be at the same level as other skate parks across our wider district, because this has provided us an opportunity at last to get rid of that terrible bowl that people are cut away in the back, and there's no decent facility there. So this is a very, very exciting development.
Just on that point, Your Worship, I recall when we had the conversation in the chamber around the allocation of $500,000 for the skate park, you made the point of, is it enough, and will it be better than what we've done in Havelock North and elsewhere in Hastings? What clearly has come through, and it's signalled in the paper, you know, is we've had a community that's been really engaged in the process that we've run around the skate park, and you know, I'm sort of pleased to, you know, to see the approach that we're taking, where the community is saying, you know, yeah, we want this awesome skate and scootering park, but we want to see, you know, we want to see our cultural identity reflected in how this is designed. We want to see graffiti art. We want it well lit. We want to see a kiosk. We want Māori wardens or a skate park guardian out there. So what Rachel Stewart is flagging is we are at the tail end of that design process, and it will come back here, but the things that the community are describing as their aspirations will probably add up more than the $500,000 initial budget sort of allocation, but that will come back at the next council meeting following that detailed design process.
Thank you very much. That's excellent. Good to hear. Right, so no further questions or comments. I have a mover and a seconder. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? Thank you. Congratulations, well done. Yay. Fabulous Flaxmere time. What a great opportunity to have some amazing homes for our people, 220 in Flaxmere with beautiful skate park. Excellent. Now we move on, and this is a public excluded item, item 17. Could I just ask the author of the paper to explain to us why this item would be in a PX agenda? Mr. Cameron, thank you. I have a conflict of interest from Councillor Lawson, who will not stay for this paper.
Thank you.
Through Madam Chair, the paper is recommended for public exclusion because council needs to protect its future negotiations position.
And can I just explain to our community who are watching today that the camera doesn't show Councillor Travis and Councillor... so Councillor Travis and... So you just can't see them today, but they are here. And who? Sorry, and Councillor Ollie and Councillor Corbyn. So they're out on the limb, they're out on the side, they're 2 metre distancing, but they're in the chamber and they're contributing. And Councillor Harvey, can you see him on the camera? You can, okay, good. All right. Okay, thank you. So happy to move from the chair we moved into a PX item, seconded by Councillor Sholem. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? Thank you. That concludes the public agenda for today's council meeting, and we now will turn off our live streaming